I hope you're having a great Monday. Right now, we just had a 2-hour live earlier this morning, almost 2-hour and 20-minute live, talking about Nancy Guthrie and Sheriff Chris Nanos. Now, if you didn't have the time to watch 2 hours and 20 minutes, I just did another live on TikTok that kind of broke down the same type of information we were discussing, just in a more condensed form and format. So hopefully you guys look at this video, check it out, let me know what you think, but we need your help right now in stopping some of the corrupt practices of Sheriff Chris Nanos, especially to the podcasters and live streamers. If you can help, please watch how you can help at the end of this show. I've got very specific places you can go get information to help advocate with us for our civil rights and our constitutional rights. I hope you enjoy this segment of the show. Please let me know what your thoughts are. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the Bullhorn Betty channel. Thank you so much for being here, and God bless. Breaking news! Is Chris Nanos, Sheriff Chris Nanos, a criminal? Let's look at his record. I'm Bullhorn Betty, and we've been covering the case of Nancy Guthrie, an 84-year-old grandmother ripped out of her bed in the middle of the night by a masked gunman on February 1st, 2026, and she's never been seen again. Her family has come under heavy scrutiny as possibly and potentially being involved in the crime. However, the sheriff has cleared the entire family. After the initial investigation, it came out that Chris Nanos has quite the history, including beating a civilian that was handcuffed in the head and sending him to ICU almost 40 years ago, but most recently lied about the incident under oath. And since then, we've caught him driving his car in excess of 100 miles an hour, forcing his own citizens off the road to allow him to pass. That sounds pretty criminal to me, doesn't it? Now, moving over to Miss Nancy Guthrie, he's in charge of her case. And boy, did he foul it up. He didn't have lights on when they were searching for him because of some stupid ordinance. They left a fixed-wing airplane grounded for over 4 hours because of an internal squabble with the seasoned pilot to operate that machinery. And they also benched the FBI for 4 days during this investigation, which really crippled this case. Lastly, sending all the evidence over to a lab that was ill-equipped to handle the evidence when it should have went to the FBI lab in Quantico. This set back the case months when this lady's life hung in the balance. And the more social media got vocal, the more they started stripping the rights away from the podcaster and live streamers out there, notating all of these terrible issues with this case. One even being cited with a misdemeanor, a clear civil rights violation. So now I'm asking the community to come with me and help me fight back against this corrupt practice in Pima County that's violating the First Amendment and the 14th Amendment of many content creators out there in the community. I have created a form letter, and we are starting to fight back against corrupt practices of our federal government, local government, and states governments. We will not concede until our demands are met. We have a right to be here. We have constitutional protections, and our civil rights will no longer be violated by a criminal sheriff that's running Pima County in violation of the law. Pima County Sheriff's Department, as well as their Board of Supervisors, is officially on notice. Violate another person's rights again, and we're going to come after you lawfully and legally. We want Nancy brought home. We want to know what happened to her, and more importantly, we want this criminal and anybody associated with him and this crime arrested and brought to justice. Where is Nancy Guthrie? Say her name. God bless. From the East Coast to the West Coast, we are everywhere true crime is. We are asking for the public's help. We are searching in the woods. We are doing what it takes here on the Bullhorn Betty channels to find answers to the most alarming cases we have been watching on the news. I can tell you personally that I have traveled this entire country seeking these answers and bringing that content right here to you here on the Bullhorn Betty channels and Bullhorn Betty Crime Stories. We are happy with the work that we've done. We brought many answers to the public, and we have defied mainstream media in our pursuit of the truth in these cases. We will continue to work, we will continue to fight for these victims, and we will continue to tell their stories here on my channels. Welcome to the Bullhorn Betty brand of channels and the Coffee Club. Thank you for your love, thank you for your support, and more importantly, thank you for allowing me to bring these victims' stories to each and every one of you, advocating for each of these victims. God bless you, God bless America, and more importantly, God bless our victims. Well, hello, my beauties. I am Bullhorn Betty. We have not covered the case of Nancy Guthrie in a really long time. And boy, do we have the show for you guys today, because now we're asking, is Chris Nanos, Sheriff Chris Nanos, the same Chris Nanos as that's, running the investigation into Nancy Guthrie's case, the same Chris Nanos that the FBI said kept them at bay for 4 days during the bulk of this investigation, totally destroying the investigation, and most likely this lady lost her life as a result of it. And we learned about the masked gunman. But who is he? What was he driving? How did he get there? We know Miss Nancy Guthrie went out the front door, but there's no way she could have walked down the street, so where did she go? They had to have loaded her up in a vehicle. How do they not have a vehicle to give us after all of this time? We have no idea. Right now, it is June. What is it, June 8th today? June 9th today? I think it's June 8th. And we have, she was disappeared February 1st. Like, it's been over 4 months and we still don't have a car or a vehicle? That's insanity to me. That's insanity to me. But the question isn't about Miss Guthrie, right? We're talking about Chris Nanos here. And then we got an arrow going to him asking, is he a criminal? Well, it is my position he is. 40 years ago, he beat a civilian that was, a suspect in a crime that was arrested. I think it was a burglary or something like that. And he beat him so hard with his flashlight that he sent him to ICU. And they forced him out of the El Paso, Texas Police Department. And he sat out, sidelined for 2 years. And then he went over to Pima County and lied about what had happened over in El Paso. Well, somebody in Pima County dropped the ball and never looked into his history with El Paso and just hired him. Well, 40 years later, he's still lying about what happened in El Paso, including under oath. And then we find out that his vehicle has been driving in excess of 100 miles an hour, forcing people off the road. And now we're learning they're out there and he's forcing his own officers to violate people's constitutional and civil rights out there in the Catalina foothills that is covering this case on public roadway and public property. That is a clear violation. We heard one such gentleman received a misdemeanor citation, a criminal citation, for sitting on the side of the road because he had a little bit of his chair on the roadway. That is ridiculous. It's a waste of time, it's a waste of resources, and it's a civil rights violation. That person in their capacity as a journalist is allowed to be there, whether he's credentialed media or just a simple lone independent podcaster. They're entitled to be there, and they have a right to be there. And not only do they have a right to be there, that right is protected by the biggest constitution of our land, the U.S. Constitution. So now we know that they are violating people's civil rights out there. And so in addition to all of these crimes that we can attribute to criminal crimes, like actual, he should have been arrested and thrown in jail crimes, that this sheriff that wears a badge and has a, pew pew on his side. This criminal sheriff that runs this investigation and has run this investigation into the ground is now out there forcing his officers to violate the civil rights of content creators, independent journalists, and podcasters that are out there. So I have taken the time to go through all of the laws and the case law of things that have been appealed to that is good standing case law for these issues they're in violation of. And so I have written a letter, this form letter right here. I've put it on my post on the YT. I'm going to be including it on my Facebook, Bullhorn Betty, or the book face, I guess is what we need to say on here, on Bullhorn Betty. And I'm hoping that you guys print this off, read it, and sign it yourself as a concerned citizen. But it really is to help and to protect the rights of all of us. Because right now, in addition to Pima County Sheriff completely tanking this investigation, he's now going after the content creators that are vocalizing their disdain for this issue. And so we as a community, especially the true crime community, cannot allow this to happen, and we must step up to the plate and do something. So I've done all the work for you. All you have to do is go to my YT and cut and paste this in a document. It needs to be sent to the Pima County Sheriff as well as the Board of Supervisors. And we're going to be starting to do more campaigning for the civil rights of the people out there. We're all tuned into this case. Yes, we have a little bit of Nancy Guthrie fatigue, but at the end of the day, when we want information, we go to certain channels to get it because the media out there is tapped out. And good gracious, the Guthrie family doesn't do squat when it comes to their mother. As a matter of fact, Savannah Guthrie has removed every single thing related to her mother off her Instagram page. So I'm like, okay, so nobody's supposed to talk. Even the family is pulling it all out. We had the same thing happen to Sebastian Rogers' case, and Nancy Grace had something to say about it. All these talking heads had something to say about it. But when it's Savannah Guthrie, everybody is just crickets. It's just crickets. We have a major problem here with Pima County Sheriff. He's in my opinion, a criminal. He should be in jail, okay, period. The sheriff is a criminal and should be in jail. That's my opinion. So, so if he doesn't have a problem violating criminal law, do we really think he has a problem violating civil law? Of course not. He doesn't give a shit about the taxpayers' money. He doesn't care whether these people are going to sue him or sue the county after all of this. And they were trying to lead an actual recall against this sheriff. And the Board of Supervisors poo-pooed all over their citizens that they promised they would help. So I think we as a public and we as true crime content creators have just had our level of BS from a county sheriff and Board of Supervisors. They take federal funds. We're all their taxpayers. We have been sitting here paying for a lot of stuff in the Pima County area and them telling us, yeah, we don't answer to you. Well, they're going to answer to us or they're going to get sued. That's what's going to end up happening here. So we've got this form letter here, and we also have, just breaking everything down, even the 14th Amendment arguments about them selectively enforcing the restrictions. And I just find it awfully funny that it was the black man that got the misdemeanor citation, but everybody else got the warning. I'm just saying. I'm not into all that conversation, but I just find it awfully funny that that's kind of how everything kind of, went on in that community. And I just kind of think it's pretty shitty, and I think we all should be doing something about it. So if you guys would like to help, I will have this in PDF on I think I already put it on my my book face. So go to Bullhorn Betty on the book face. And you guys can get this form letter printed off. You'll need two pages, well, a total of 4 pages because this is 2 pages, but you'll have to print out 2 copies. You'll need 2 envelopes and you'll need 2 stamps. And you'll need to send this to Pima County Sheriff's Department as well as Pima County Board of Supervisors. I did the work for you. You don't have to research. You don't have to do anything. It's just if you agree with what we're doing, all you have to do is go over there, print it off, put a stamp on it, and send it off. So that's kind of what we're doing. Now, on a breaking news stance in the case, we don't really have a whole lot of breaking news, but we kind of do. I truly do believe that there are leaps and bounds being made. I do not believe Chris Nanos is equipped to handle this. I believe all the heavy lifting investigative work is happening from the FBI, I believe. However, with that being said, it is my understanding that Pima County Sheriff is still the sheriff of record for this case. That means he's still running the investigation, and he's a hothead. So I do not feel like this case is getting any closer to being solved. But here's the kicker, folks. He said on Mother's Day weekend that when somebody, it was an independent journalist, I don't know who it was, he had an accent, so I was really unfamiliar with this person, went up to Chris as he was walking out to his Corvette, and his white Corvette that likes to run people off the roads when he's heading home. And he caught him and he asked him, did he want to say anything to the family for Mother's Day? And he said, no, I'm good. Thank you, I'm good. So he didn't want to say anything to the family about, Mother's Day, because he fouled this case up. And if she was alive, he's definitely the reason why she's not anymore, because of his delays. He said no. And then he further asked, how's the case coming along? And he basically assured the person that they were going to be having an arrest soon, or something to that effect, that they have an understanding of where this is going, and they're getting close. Is basically what was implied. They're getting close. Close to what? Close to an arrest. That's what was being implied. Then over a month later, Chris Nanos, which was just recently, decides to go on an interview with one of their local news stations, because again, he bows down to the mainstream media. He will never interview with social media. He just has disdain for social media because we talk crap about him, right? Because he's crap. And he's a criminal in our minds, in our eyes. So he talks to this new, and he just totally basically absolved the fact that they're even anywhere close. He's saying, oh, we're still taking leads. Or we're still taking, well, if you're close to solving the case, then you should have all the leads you need. So still asking for leads in that interview implied they were nowhere closer. And if you listen to the way he talked, he wasn't confident. He's not telling us in that interview that they're close. As a matter of fact, he's basically saying we're so far away because it's the labs. Remember, he's a compulsive liar. So it's the labs. It's this. It's all these delays that are going on. And while forensics do take time, we all know that the forensics take time. It was because of their foulness. It was because of their corrupt practices. It was because nobody was competent or seasoned enough to take this case. Every person that is pretty much on the Pima County Sheriff is fairly green. We also heard the manager of the supervisor of the homicide unit has zero homicide experience. If that's not nepotism at its best, I don't know what is. Corruption. This entire sheriff's department oozes corruption from its proverbial veins. And that's kind of where we are in this case. There's this case was a hot mess express, not because of the FBI, but because of the Pima County Sheriff, and not just their sheriff, their forensic unit. Their forensic unit left the bracket for the camera that was ripped off. They never even took the concrete where all the blood spatter was. They didn't take the mat. They didn't take the foliage. They took nothing. You didn't even see any fingerprint dust on the front door. Like, what stellar forensic unit would literally go out to the front door, see all that blood, and take virtually nothing for testing? Which, I'm beside myself. You know what? We never went to school for this stuff. But our common sense tells us that was a shoddy job. That was a shoddy and crappy job they did for this lady. And then they had the FBI there ready to fly the evidence over to Quantico. And this Yahoo wanted to have a pissing contest over this lady's life and send it to a freaking lab in Florida, where I'm from. Now, granted, our labs here are stellar labs, but they ain't Quantico. Okay? And guess what they had to do months later? Send that evidence to Quantico. Doesn't that make you sick? We were literally fighting to bring this lady home alive. And this sheriff delayed the case months. A woman that had no medication, that was on a heart monitor and a pacemaker. And he wanted to dick around with her life and send all of that evidence to the Florida lab. And then months later, it was sent over to Quantico, which is exactly what the FBI told this sheriff would happen. They told this sheriff that this is exactly what would happen, and he didn't want to listen. He gambled with this lady's life to boot. After everything I've already told you about this piece of crap sheriff, he gambled with this lady's life, and now she may never be found. And it may be possible that criminals will get away with this, because even when they are charged or taken in, there's so much horrible detective work at the beginning of this case that it might give the defense attorney enough meat on the bone to get their client off. Even when they do find Miss Nancy or the assailant. That's what's so disheartening about this whole process. So if you guys have not seen my updated video, I haven't talked about Nancy Guthrie in months. I'm just now starting to talk about Nancy Guthrie because I need your help. I need your help into going to my book face and printing this off and putting a date on it and signing your name and mailing it off to Pima County Sheriff and a copy to Pima County Board of Supervisors. Remember, they take federal funds, so we're all concerned citizens, and by God, we're all their taxpayers. So at the end of the day, the only thing we can't do is vote for them, but we definitely cannot demand answers, because they didn't mind having their hand out and taking our money. They certainly did not mind taking our money. But they surely do take time answering us. So we actually have demands, and our demands are here. We have 3 demands, including for them, if they're going to continue this ridiculous ban on cars in this specific area, they have 10 days to cite the legal authority that they have to do that. This was supposed to be temporary. It has exceeded past 90 days. I don't think that they ever had the authority to do this, let alone to have it done this way, or to charge somebody criminally because of a piece of their chair or their foot being on a road. I think that's ridiculous. I think that's insane. And it's time for us as a community and as the Americans to fight back, because this is our civil rights. We don't have to like the people, but we do have to protect the umbrella. Okay? And because if it can happen to them, it can happen to me, and it can happen to you. And I'm not down like that. So I need everybody's help. Please pass this around. I will be making videos about this, but please, 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 we need all hands on deck to help fight against this corruption. When we see it, we should put an end to it. And that's what is so good about the true crime community, because we fight shoulder to shoulder for these cases. And this is just one of those cases we have got to fight back on. Chris Nanos, in my opinion, is a freaking criminal that should be in jail, not running Pima County Sheriff's Department. Let me know your thoughts.